The new Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. Introducing the all-new Apple Watch Series 10, now available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generation, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode 660 of the DBR podcast, the Duke Basketball Roundup. I am Jason Evans. I'm here with my buddy Donald Wine. Donald, it's voting day. It's election day across the U.S. I voted early. Did you vote early? Did you vote today?
I sent my mail-in ballot like 3 weeks ago. So, yes, I'm good. I did
Yes.
use my voting sticker to get a free Krispy Kreme donut. So, always,
well.
I never wear it when I actually vote because no one gives any free stuff out on, for early voters. They don't care about early voters. They should. And so the people who early voted, good for you. The people who did mail-in ballots, good for you. And the people who exercised their right today, good for you.
Yes, exactly. No matter how you voted, we are pleased that you voted and hope that everybody participated in our civic duty. I tell you, I always see that the U.S. struggles to get to 60% voter turnout. And I'm always like, how? It's not that hard these days. There was a time when you had to wait in line a long time. It's really not that hard. But anyway, I hope the process goes well. I hope that when people listen to this, if they listen to it tomorrow or late tonight, that no one is sad or upset or angry about the outcome of the election. Although, even though I hope that, I think I'm probably going to be wrong.
You know you're going to be wrong on that. So.
I know I'm going to be wrong.
But yes, I get the sentiment.
Yes, I'm hoping for a peaceful transition no matter how it turns out. That's for sure. All right, enough politics. That was as political as we're going to get here at the DBR podcast. We are here to talk about Duke basketball and specifically the opening game of the season. The Blue Devils took care of business in a very, very big way against the Maine Black Bears. And look, Donald, we had told all the listeners, we said, hey, folks, send us your headlines and you could have a chance to win from Home Field Apparel a really cool Duke pullover. By the way, if you don't win, all of you out there who send us headlines, you can still get that Duke pullover. Go to Home Field Apparel, put in your code DBR podcast, and you will get a 15% discount. And you can have it that way versus the way of winning it, which will be for the best headline. And ordinarily, Donald, we would start our conversation by doing headlines, but we're not going to, because we got an avalanche. We got an unbelievable number of headlines. There were over 100. And in fact, at one point, I thought I'd caught up on all of them. I was like, oh my God, it's just going through. I thought I caught up on all of them. I was like, okay, I reached message number 1. And then I left that message and my email reloaded and there were 20 more that had come in. Just unbelievable number of people who sent us headlines. We're going to do that at the end of the show. At the very end, we will read the best headlines and award the Home Field Pullover Duke prize. But man, oh my God, we've never had anything close to this in our email inbox, have we?
No, I mean, it was great. First of all, there was a lot of great ones. So if yours is not
I'm not
mentioned,
complaining. I love it. I'm not complaining.
If yours is not mentioned, there's been times where we get a bunch of them. We're like, there's not a lot that we can use here. There were a couple there. We'll say there was, Jason, we got a couple yesterday morning before the game. We can't have that. Those were not allowed. But for after the game, as soon as the game was over, bling, 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 bling. That was the email basically for the rest of the night and into this morning. So yes, thank you for everybody who submitted headlines and some great ones you had. Let me tell you, it took a while for us to sift through them. And I just like you, I was kind of going through bit by bit, and then I was like, "Oh wait, I've reached the end. Great. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on page 3. Let me go back to page 2. Oh, yep, there's another 50. Let me go through these real quick. Oh, there's another 25. Let me go through that real quick." So it took a couple hours to go through these.
It was crazy, and thanks to everyone. I'm gonna. There's no way we could read them all on the air. I think at the end we're gonna read like maybe between 10 and 15 of them. Frankly, there were another 30 or 40 at least that I was like, that's really good, that's really clever, that's not making the cut. That's how
Mhm.
it was. A major competition to get on the air this time. But folks, keep doing it. We love to have it, whether there's a prize on the line or just getting your name read and appreciated by me and Donald. Keep sending us those headlines throughout the season. It was a ton of fun to read them all. But Donald, we will start by talking about the good things we had from the Blue Devils' 96-62 victory over the Maine Black Bears. And I don't know, I'm not sure where you would want to start. I'm going to do something unconventional. I'm going to start with the defense, if that's okay with you.
Good, because that's what I was going to start with.
Oh, good. Excellent. I am told that Maine scored exactly one field goal in the final 11 minutes of this game. Throughout the entire contest, the Duke defense smothered them, repeatedly forced Maine to go one-on-one to get anything. And even in those one-on-one opportunities, they were generally unable to beat their man and took a ton of fadeaway jumpers. Now, full credit to Maine. They hit a decent number of those pull-ups and fadeaways and stuff like that. And not an easy shot. Is a shot that if you have to give it up on defense, that is what you are willing to give up. And again, kudos to Maine for hitting as many of them as they did. But my goodness, the Duke defense was suffocating. There's no word for it other than that. And one stat I want to give, I may be stealing this from you, my friend. Maine had 4 assists on 21 buckets, and Duke forced 14 turnovers from Maine. 4 assists on the game. That shows you they were not able to pass the ball. They were not able to work the ball into good position. The Duke defense was as advertised. It was great.
You know who would have had an absolutely frustrating night last night? Patrick Ewing, because Patrick Ewing would have called 8 timeouts, of which he only has 4. And he in each one he would have been like, step back one-legged. What kind of shot is that? Have you worked on that shot? Do you work on that shot? When? Because that's all they were doing. They were only doing like step back one-legged, like end of shot clock. Oh my goodness, I got to get this ball up before the shot clock expires type of shots. And to their credit, early on, a lot of them did go in, and throughout the game they did. But again, you mentioned the one field goal, the final 10:59, one field goal from Maine, and it was again a lot of good defense. We struggled a little early with fouls, and even in the second half, early in the second half, we sent them to the line quite a bit. But after we were able to calm down and settle down that part of it, it really turned into the reason why this game blew open is because our defense turned into offense very quickly, and our defense was so smothering that Maine just kind of, again, they were throwing up shots as kind of giving up on the possession. Some of them locked in, but for the most part, that's the shots that you want your opponent to be taking. And like you said, 4 assists on 21 baskets. It means they weren't looking for each other. It also means that there was no passing lanes for them to pass to anyway. So it wasn't like they were working the ball around trying to find a good shot. These guys were in corners. They were like in the paint, and they'd look up and they'd see man or Cooper bearing down them, and they go, oh crap. Malik Brown was getting his hand in the passing lanes. He didn't get a lot of steals, but he was, again, making them have to go somewhere else with a basketball, away from the basket. And even their shots were away from the basket. And that's what you want to see from a defense that is smothering others. Sure, other good teams are going to maybe find ways to pass the ball a little bit more to get a better shot. But against a team like Maine, you want Maine to take bad shots. We talked in the preview about how they can't shoot well. So force them in the bad shots, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to miss a lot of them. The one thing we also did, Jason, rebounds. We out-rebounded them 40-27. We turned a lot of points off of turnovers. We got 19 of them. And fast break points were, again, off of rebounds going the other way. So I really liked what we saw on defense, particularly the last 10 minutes of the second half where we go, hey, it's closeout time. Let's get up out of here. Let's break this game open. And the way we're going to do it is Maine is not going to get a shot the rest of the game.
You brought up rebounding. I actually think rebounding falls in both the good and the bad. The second half, we out-rebounded them 24-9. That's good.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
big. But it's worth noting, in the first half, we lost the rebounding Maine by a count of 18-16. That's not a good number. Maine is a team that Duke should be out-rebounding any half. And for us to lose it in the first half and for us to give up 6 offensive rebounds in the first half, I was bothered by that. But the team made good adjustments at halftime. We only gave up 1 offensive rebound in the entire second half, and I thought we cleaned that up. The other thing is, in terms of how we played this game, before we get to the individuals, I want to talk about Duke's shot selection. I looked at the shot chart. Duke only took 4 shots from outside. They were outside the lane, but not outside the 3-point line. Sort of 4 of those mid-range jumpers.
Kyle Singler twos. Yeah.
Yeah. The official shot chart shows that we took 5, but I think they counted one that was sort of right next to the lane. I think they called that a mid. That's not. I looked at it where it was. That's a perfectly fine shot. I'm happy with that shot. We really only took, again, 4 shots that I think are lower percentage shots. It's worth noting that we missed every single one of them. We didn't even take, like foul line jumpers or just inside the foul line jumpers, which count as in the lane, but I'm not a huge fan of those either. This was a very disciplined Duke attack. We knew where good shots come from, and basically everything was at the rim or outside the 3-point line. And I want to talk about the threes really quick. 29 of Duke's 63 shots came from 3-point range. 29 out of 63. That's 46%. Last year, Duke was taking a 3-pointer on 37% of our shots. So we're up almost 10 percentage points over last year. When we were shooting 37% of our shots from 3, that's right at the national average. Duke was an average team in terms of how often we shot 3-pointers. If we average 46% of our shots coming from 3-point range on the season, if we do what we did against Maine the rest of the year, Duke will be one of the 20 most frequent 3-point shooting teams in all of college basketball. And Donald, I'm not sure. I just gave a lot of stats, a lot of numbers. I'm not sure if folks understand the most important number behind a 3-point shot, which is that it's worth 3, not 2.
Yes.
I am of the belief I would love for Duke to be above 40, even above 45% of our shots coming from 3-point range. This is a team that is great shooting from the outside. And I love that we have already shown in the exhibitions and now our first real game against Maine that this is a Duke team that's going to put it up from the perimeter a lot. Get to 30. I want to see Duke taking 30 3-point shots a game.
And that's the key right there. The last part is the key. It doesn't matter how many 3-pointers you take if you're not good at them. We're good at threes. That's the one thing we learned from the preseason, that we have shooters that can shoot the ball from outside the arc. And so if you're going to take more threes, that's great, because if more of them go in, as you mentioned, 3 is more than 2. You build leads very quickly, or you can get back into games if you need to through your shooting. I think the one thing that we did well is also when we weren't shooting the ball as well as we normally, as we have so far this season. In the first half, we only made a third of our threes. We were getting it into the paint. And we're going, okay, we'll just go to the rack and get points that way. And so those high percentage shots inside like 5 feet, we did a lot of those, because that, if you're not making your threes, the one thing is you're going to, bring the defense out a little bit more, but then there's more room for you to work through them and get into the lane and get to your spot. You know who was doing that well as we lead into the individuals? Khaman. He didn't shoot a lot of threes, but he was getting to a spot in the lane. And when he did, for the most part, he was successful.
Oh, yeah. Khaman is a great place to start when we're talking about individuals. His shot chart was a thing of beauty. It was all threes and layups. His ability to get into the lane, to use his IQ, use his shoulders, use his understanding of the angles to get a shot at the basket, basically a layup, is a major weapon. He was 5 of 6 on non-3-pointers in this game, and every single one of them was a shot where you were like, oh, man, that's 2 points. We got this taken care of.
And Jason, I believe the one miss, he got the rebound and then laid it up. So
yeah, exactly.
You call that a wash.
Precisely. He ends up in this game leading the team in scoring, which is what I predicted in the stat game. I think that we're going to see 20-point games from Khaman a lot this season, because he clearly gets on a heater sometimes and is just going to destroy you from 3. But even if he's not And frankly, in this game, he missed some shots, some threes. I'm sure he'll tell you, I should have hit that one. Even when he's not hitting threes, he has now shown us for sure that he's going to be able to get into good spots and make baskets any other way. Last thing I have about Khan, 7 minutes into this game, the score was Con Knipple 13, Maine 9. I'm telling you right now, yeah, I know it's crazy. Maine will not be the first team that Con Knipple outscores all on his own at times this season. Not over the whole game, of course, but over long stretches of time. Because that man, I mean, dude can put up points in bunches really fast.
I think the one thing about Khan is that you mentioned it. You blinked and he had 13 points, and it wasn't that he was on a heater. It was just him getting to his spot and making baskets. And when he was missing shots, he was finding other ways to get to the hole, maybe even get to the line. Like that is going to be so fun to watch because when he's on a heater, like he was against Arizona State, wow, that's the thing of beauty. But if he's gonna just ho hum get to 20 points by like grinding it out, other teams are gonna be so upset with themselves that they let that happen because again, his game is suited where it's not athletic or anything, at least athletic looking, but man, is he getting to his spots. But I will say this, John Shire in his post-game press conference, he noted Concaniple's defense and said, he had a great defensive game, which really helped the team, blow the doors off of Maine. It was the offense is one thing, but again, if you're struggling to make your shot, you want to affect the game in other ways, and he was able to do that. Yes, he was still able to get to 22 points. He had 4 rebounds, he had 2 assists, he had a steal, and again, John Shire said that he had excellent on-the-ball defense, which really helped the rest of the team kind of be calm when we were doing defensive stuff and maybe have a chance to go for a couple steals, go for a block here or there. And we didn't have that many blocks, but in the steal department, it allows someone to go out in the passing lane and gamble a little bit because you know that somebody is in the position to back you up. Concanipple did that, and that helped his offense as well, which is why, if you're looking at a player of the game, he's one of them, but also we'll talk about Cooper Flagg as well. But there's that, like, again, affect the game in ways that are unconventional, affect the game in ways that stat sheets don't quantify. That's what Concanipple did. But now we're going to talk about someone who filled the stat sheet up.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Cooper Flagg is next. And I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. We got several emailers who pointed this out to us. All of us, all 3 of us, you, me, and Sam in the stats prediction game, guessed the number of 10, 5, and 5 games, Wendell Moore games, as we called them. How many Duke would have this year? I don't remember which one of us had the high.
It wasn't a big number. It was like, I think one of us predicted 6. Yeah.
Whoever I was more than 6, I'm sure, but whoever predicted that person is the winner because Cooper Flagg is going to do a 10, 5, and 5 game like all the freaking time. In this game, he has 18 points, 5 assists, 7 rebounds, and 3 steals and a partridge in a pear tree. It was ridiculous the way he was impacting this game. 5 minutes in this game, I said to myself, my 10, 5, and 5 prediction is wrong.
Yeah. Well, we were also very low because, if you think about it, over the last 2 years, Wendell Moore had he felt like he had one every other game. And then he left. And then the 2 years since he's left, we had a combined like 7. And so when we were doing this, we're like, okay, yeah, a lot of guys get close. You'll get 9 points, they'll get 4 rebounds, they'll get 4 assists. And Cooper Flagg, to everyone's credit, Cooper Flagg had not yet had a 5 rebound game in the preseason. So you're like, okay, maybe that's true. He might get a couple games where he's going to get 4 rebounds, but he's going to do so much other stuff that it won't matter. No, he just becomes the first freshman to have 10, 5, 5, and 3 in his debut. Silly us. But that's good. That's good. We'll take that.
But by the way, I just checked the spreadsheet and I picked 9, 10, 5, and 5 games. I am the high person. I'm going to win.
Yeah, take that point.
I'll tell you right
take that
now.
Point.
Yeah. So, regarding Cooper, he missed all 4 of his 3-pointers. He was just 6 of 15 from the field. And honestly, if I was going to wait to talk about this in the bad, he took some shots I did not like. I was talking earlier about the long, the mid-range shots. Those were almost all Cooper Flagg, and I didn't love some of them. But at the same time, he felt utterly in control. It never felt like he was forcing anything. And Duke clearly was running the half-court offense through him more often than not. There was a stat on Cooper Everyone's talking about 18 points, 5 assists, 7 rebounds, 3 steals. There's a stat on Cooper that I think is even more significant. Donald, he drew 8 fouls on the
Yeah.
opposition. That's a big number. He was getting in the lane, and there was nothing they could do to stop him. His ability to turn the corner on guys. He has that long stride. He is deceptively quick. He is obviously really, really athletic and can get in the air. Oh my God, that one-handed dunk, that tomahawk. I did not see that coming. I was like, it was just that was so explosive of a play. But the drawing 8 fouls on the opposition, you're going to see that from him again and again. If you were a team and you got someone who you're like, oh, this guy's a good matchup for Cooper, I think this is a guy who could frustrate him a little bit. That guy's going to foul out of the game.
Yeah.
And by the way, one other thing to note, the 18 points, I saw at least 3 buckets, there may have been 4, where the referees called a foul like, oh, he's on the floor, and Cooper went right up and took a shot and made it. He really should have had like 24, 25 points, I think. If he got NBA continuation, dude would have had like a ton more 3-point plays. Seemed like they waved off baskets by him left and right for the foul being, right before he went up and took the shot.
They also had the one at towards the end of the first half where he did the dunk, but it came like 0.2 seconds after the shot clock expired. If you noticed, Ace Flagg, who was, first of all, he was in Cameron. He was sitting by the main bench, and he was giving him giving a little crap after that. It was kind of getting into him a little bit after the missed opportunity to dunk 0.2 seconds quicker. And you can see, he's kind of laughing at Cooper, and Cooper has this stoic look as like, all right, twin brother, I'm gonna, turn it on the second half and show your team something. But I think, first of all, the emotions that Cooper Flagg must have felt last night showed in how he played, right? Because of course he's from Maine. A lot of people came down from Maine, not just to represent the Black Bears, but to see him play and represent their state. And he has been like the for lack of a better word, the flag bearer for the state of Maine in basketball for a couple of years now. And now at Duke, in his first game, he plays against the flagship school. And so I'm sure there was a lot going on there. Again, his brother's there, his family's there, but his brother's sitting, for the team he's going to play for next year, which is not Duke,
Right.
which I'm sure was very, very rarely do you see that occur in Cameron. But for him to come out and, again, do something that no freshman's ever done in their debut shows that we're not done with the firsts for Cooper Flagg. He's going to be doing a lot of firsts this season, and this was just the first of many. But for him to fill the stat sheet like he did, I'll take being low on the 10-5-5 game all season long if he's going to continue to do that. I mean, we had some people who said that, and my buddy Jeff, we were talking about last night, they're saying he could average a 10-5-5, and that's probably true.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Right? It wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if he did. I wouldn't be shocked if he came close. But if he is averaging a 10-5-5, we are winning. I think you and I are the high end of the wins column in the stats game. We're getting to that. That's what's going to happen.
I like that. I like the sound of that a lot. As we move on with individuals, I want to talk about. I want to talk about a group of individuals, and that is the bench. Jackson. We had someone who emailed us, sent us a headline, also sent us a note. A gentleman named Jackson Stokes. He said he was at the game, and he pointed out that there was a moment where Mason Gillis was showing incredible leadership on the bench. Jackson said he was the first guy to get up and high five everyone who came off the court. He was the last guy to talk to them as they went back in when he wasn't in the game. And I love that observation from Jackson, something that we couldn't see watching the broadcast, but that he gave us from being at the game about Mason Gillis's leadership. I thought that all 3 of those veteran transfers, Mason Gillis, Sion James, and Malik Brown, had really excellent games, both statistically and just in terms of their leadership, their poise, their ability to impact the game outside of, obvious kind of things. They just showed their poise and versatility all over the court. I mean, if you had Malik Brown as an elite passing facilitator, stand up and take a bow. I did not know that was in his arsenal. He was fabulous getting that ball in the high post out of the 3-point line and finding the cutters. And by the way, the cutters that he found were Mason Gillis and Sion James. It's like these veterans know each other better, even though they're playing together for the first times. They just play like veterans, and they have learned what it takes to win at a high level like this. I love that Sion James and Mason Gillis both got into double figures, that they were super efficient in everything they did. Didn't take a single shot that was even close to a bad shot. And it's worth noting that Brown, Gillis, and James had a combined 6 steals. Those guys were excellent on defense. That's not a surprise. That is each of their reputations. But the impact of it was when Duke went to the bench, no offense to Jalen Blakes and Sean Stewart and those other guys last year. Frankly, Caleb Foster was one of them. Ryan Young. No offense to those guys. Duke's bench is just way better this year. Much more able to impact the game. There's not as much of a drop off from starters to the bench players. And as I'm talking about the bench, I also want to mention I like that Isaiah Evans got some, fairly early run, got some run in the first half when it was still a very competitive game. I thought he looked perfectly fine. I know he didn't get the ball in the basket. His stats don't bear it out, but he looked like he belonged out there with those guys. I can't figure out exactly how deep this Duke team's going to run, but you tell me Isaiah Evans is getting significant run in the first half of every game, even close games. I'm not surprised at this point, and frankly, I probably would have been surprised a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, going to the bench, and I think it's great that we have, in all likelihood, 3 very experienced players who can come off the bench first, second, or third, right? In the form of James, Gillis, and Brown. And even again, if one of them's in the starting lineup, you're switching some people around. You have it for at the most, you most likely have an experienced guy coming out first, and that provides so much depth. Now, and I'm not talking about depth in the form of numbers. I'm talking about depth in the form of quality, and the idea that you can start young, bring on a very experienced guard. That means for that team that we're facing, there's no let up because they know that this guy is crafty. They know they can get to their spots. They know they've been around the block quite a bit. And in the form of James and Gillis, right, they are able to find the spots that they want to get to inflict damage on the other team. And whether that's through the 3-point line, whether it's getting to the rack, whether that's, again, those backdoor cuts on defense, being physical in your nose, making sure that the opponent has a very difficult day. Those are the type of defenders that they are, and they also aren't asking for too much, right? That's why they're here at Duke. They're not here to be 25.
They're here to win.
25
win. That's all they care about.
Yeah, they're just like, yo, if you need me to get 5 rebounds, great. Mason Gillis said, you want me to get 3 steals? Awesome. Well, you want me to get double digits? We'll work on that. But the fact is, because of that, we had 6 guys in double figures. First time since February 2022, that Florida State game where it felt like everybody was hitting baskets that night. And so 6 guys in double figures means, again, for an opponent, the damage can come from anywhere. And when you got 3 guys who can come off the bench and do different things, we haven't really talked about Malik Brown as much as the first 2, but Malik Brown, 7 rebounds, 4 of them offensive, had 4 assists and the steal, and then 2 points. So yeah, maybe he's not going to come off the bench and get a double, but man, if I'm getting 7 rebounds from him in his limited minutes, if I'm getting 4 assists from him, and then not to mention the defensive aspect of things where he can, stick his nose in passing lanes and get the ball and or otherwise affect the team and making them do a bad shot. This is how balanced this team is, and it shows that we got the offense, we got the defense, we got guys who can come in and do every single thing. And like I mentioned before this game, I said everyone needs to understand their roles, and it's up to the leaders, the experienced guys on the team, to make sure everyone's accountable for those. The fact that Gillis is reinforcing that on the bench, the fact that they're coming in and showing, hey, this is where no drop off means. That's what I like from this first game, is that all of that felt intact, despite the fact that we did have times where we didn't look perfect. But that's good, because these are the guys that are going to help us improve and keep going and building from that.
Yeah, I mean, you say no drop off. I actually thought Malik Brown played better than Man in this game. I mean, no, Maluach was fine. He was good. He's very intimidating. He had 3 block shots. He's going to have great games for Duke. I thought Malik Brown was more impactful on the game. And when he came in, you notice, especially not maybe as a rim protection, but in terms of positioning, in terms of keeping guys away from the bucket and not letting them have easy shots. I thought Malik Brown was outstanding defensively in this game. I mean, no duh. he was an all ACC defensive player last year and led the league in steals. This should not come as a surprise that Malik Brown was that good in this game. Yeah, it was a great game for all those guys on the bench. Last thing I wanted to get to, and I guess this sort of is both good and bad. So this will segue us to the bad, because there are some things we need to bring up. Caleb Foster and to a lesser extent Tyrese Proctor. I didn't see them. Look, Foster's the guy who is ostensibly playing point guard. Proctor has clearly moved more into an off guard kind of role this year. I don't know that that's going to necessarily last. I'd like to see Tyrese maybe get another shot at being the primary facilitator, at least position wise, because I felt like Foster was great at heading to the bucket, getting in the lane, getting his shot. Caleb Foster's, it's easy to look at Con Knipple and Cooper Flagg and go, those are the guys going to lead the team in scoring. I still think Caleb Foster is in the running for that. But I did not see Caleb Foster facilitating as much as I would like. Now, a lot of that is because Con and Cooper are doing the facilitating, and both those guys seem to have unbelievable IQ, instincts. They're wizards with the ball in their hands and their ability to get to dangerous spots, and that causing the defense to adjust and leaving teammates open. So I understand why the ball is in Coop and Con's hands so much, but I would love to see Foster look for his teammates a little bit more. On that drive, it isn't always about you finishing, although he did a nice job, but it isn't always about you finishing. Maybe you can find a teammate for an even better shot. And frankly, we didn't see Tyrese Proctor really drive all that much at all. He was mostly just sitting outside taking threes, and he was great at them. And again, I think I was the guy who had the high number on Tyrese Proctor's threes per game this season. I think that's another stat game category I'm going to win. At the time I said I'm going to win, and I think I'm going to win that category. But neither Foster nor Proctor were facilitating for teammates the way I would like to see them do it. And again, I don't know, maybe that's just a function of how much Con and Cooper have the ball in their hands.
There's that. There's also, again, like the hockey pass, right? The pass before the pass. There was a couple of potential assists from Tyrese Proctor and from Caleb Foster that ended up in the hands of somebody shooting a three that rimmed in and out. And so I'm like, okay, take that. I'm fine with it. When it comes to Foster and Proctor, I don't know that Foster is going to be the main ball handler all year long. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think that the two of them know each other at this point well enough that they can ebb and flow between the two roles that they have. There's going to be some games where Foster is going to be shooting threes, and he's going to be primarily doing threes while Tyrese moves the ball around. There's going to be games where, just like last night, Proctor's shooting the threes, Tyrese and Caleb Foster's, handling the ball and bringing it up. There's going to be times, as we've mentioned, that Cooper Flagg is going to be bringing the ball up as a point forward, and those guys can both be free to roam around. Or if there's a Sion James or Mason Gillis, they're free to roam around. So there's a lot of roles that these two have, and I'm not sure that last night is an indication that they're settled into two specific roles. I think those two roles are dynamic, like pricing on Ticketmaster, and you'll have a couple times where you'll see them kind of. I attribute it to like a soccer team where you have two center backs. One center back goes forward and they kind of, communicate to the other one like, hey, I'm gonna move up for the shot, and the other one falls back to kind of protect what's left. I think there's going to be times where Caleb Foster's going to be like, yo, give me the rock. You go open there. You got a mismatch over here. Go exploit it. And Tyrese Proctor will have the same thing where he'll come up and say, yo, Foss, take your man down there in the corner, and we're going to work the ball around to you on this possession. So I see that being kind of a two-man point guard backcourt, right, where they're going to have their roles kind of switch back and forth depending on the time of game, depending on the opponent, depending on the situation. They just need to be able to understand what their role is at the time and execute it. And as we lead into the bad, there was times where the whole team wasn't perfect, and it was partly due to the fact that roles weren't understood at that particular time with some of the rotations that we had.
Yeah, I'd say overall this was like a B game for Duke. Maybe a B minus. Maybe even a B plus. I don't know.
I'd say B, a solid B, right?
I think I think a
as
solid
we can talk
B
about the
game.
B and bad, right? Like we can switch to that.
Exactly. So as we continue with some bad stuff, we already talked a little about the rebounding, the fact that Duke was out rebounded in the first half, that Maine had 6 offensive rebounds in the first half. Yes, we did a nice job and cleaned it up in the second half, but that is something that needs to go in the bad. I also thought Duke was bad handling the ball at times. We had 13 turnovers in this game. Some of them were pretty darn ugly. There were several times where we would like get a steal or something like that and then immediately give up the ball, just trying to be a little too aggressive, pushing the pace. I'd love for our turnovers to be closer to 10 or less. I think it was last season or the season before. I think it was last season. I identified I was like 12. And when Duke's
Yeah.
below 12 turnovers, they win. When they're above 12 turnovers, it becomes a lot harder to win. We were above that number in this game at 13. Still won the game by by 30 plus points. We still scored 96 points. By the way, we're saying all these things. Duke scored 96 points against a team that plays slowly in a game where we didn't shoot particularly well. I mean, like, come on. I forget which one of us has one of us has 3 for 100-point games.
100-point games.
Yeah, Donald, I think you're in good shape on that stat. I think this Duke team, we just put up 96 against Maine. This Duke team is going to be getting 100 points multiple times this season. As we continue with some of the bad stuff, we missed several wide open threes. We mentioned that earlier. I didn't think that we shot particularly great. And then we only had, I say only, we had 17 assists on 35 made buckets, just below 50%. You'd like to be on the north side of 50%. That's not terrible. Again, this isn't like a C- kind of game from Duke by any stretch of the imagination, but you'd like to see those assists be a little bit better. And my last thing in the bad, Keelan Steele. Who the hell is Keelan Steele? This guy owned man for portions of the first half. He shot 4 of 4. He never seemed bothered by Duke's superior height. And he had a little flurry, a little run at one point where he was just kind of, teaching man lessons in the post. And you saw John Shire point to Malik Brown and say, get in there. I think, Khaman Maluach, man shows that he's got more he's got to learn in this game. And a no-name nobody from Maine looked really good playing against him. You don't want to have that happen to your lottery pick.
Yeah. Going back to the assists, you were mentioning 17 on 35 made baskets. 50%, decent. It's not bad, but you want to be closer to 60, like 2/3. 70% would be outstanding. But if you're closer to 2/3, that means you're moving the ball around and you're getting open shots. And it felt like we did miss a lot of those open shots, so that number could have been even higher. So I'm not necessarily super worried about that because we've seen them, how they pass the ball. And if they're making shots, then that assist number is going to be super high. I will say this. There's a couple things that you didn't note that I would like to. The first one is in the second half, we sent Maine to the free throw line 16 times. And it wasn't like no one was in foul trouble per se, but we did have 18 fouls. And
Right.
what we liked about the preseason was that we were able to defend without fouling. That has to be something that we want to aim to continue. We don't want to, send guys to the line where, again, in a closer game, if teams are getting to the line and making free throws, that makes a closer game even closer.
That's a great point. Yeah.
I will say also, going back to the first half, there were just stretches where we weren't completely locked in. You mentioned we threw the ball away. And again, credit to Maine. John Shire said in the post-game press conference that it was the first time this season that a team, after we hit them, hit us back. And we have to be able to withstand that. And again, better teams are going to catch up and gain confidence if they see that we fall back and kind of, are a little bit woozy after that haymaker that the team will throw. Maine's haymaker wasn't enough to beat us, but you have to be able to withstand when a team does that. And when a team, again, starts making those step back one-legged jump shots which are completely frustrating as a defender. But hey, you shake that off. And as we've said, as our mantra going back decades, next play. You focus on the next play. You focus on getting the win on that next play and then moving on from there. But I think, again, overall, we did very well. There was just a couple stretches where we just weren't locked in, and it showed. That was where Maine went on a little mini run of like 8 points, 9 points to cut our lead to 31, right? So, but like but again, against better teams, that could be, could be very costly, or at least make a game very close and make you have to think about some things. So we already know if we're locked in for 40 minutes, we're going to win every ball game. We're just that good, right? If we're locked completely in, there's very few teams that can stop us. we're not going to be locked in for all 40 minutes in every single game. We would love that, but that's just unrealistic. There's going to be times where we feel like we're taking plays off. It's about how we respond to that. I thought we responded well after halftime, but in the heat, there was definitely some times where I was like, oh man, we just need to tighten this up a little bit and we'll be fine.
All right, Donald, it's time for our play of the game. I fear we will have the same one because to me there was one play that really stood out. You know, I loved Cooper's tomahawk dunk, but the play of the
Mhm.
game was Malik Brown gets a steal, sort of loses control. Con Knipple picks it up and drains a three as he's fouled for a 4-point play. The transition from defense to offense, the offense being Con Knipple just destroying the opposing team with a backbreaking three and getting fouled. I don't know. Do you have another one? Because for me, there was no other contender.
No, but I'd like to point out on that play, Malik Brown had a playground move on it. So he did the behind the back dribble and he lost the ball and he kind of goes, "Oh no, I lost the ball." And then Conkanipple, it was, end up being the quote perfect pass to Conkanipple. He
Right.
shoots the three and gets the foul. And Malik Brown immediately was like, "Nailed it, told you." Like he had this like celebration, like, "That's exactly what I meant to do." Yeah, good play. And he just kind of like, it was very funny because you could see they were kind of chuckling about it. But yeah, Malik Brown again had a great play. Went behind the back, and when he lost the ball, he had this moment of oh no, and then it turned into success. In by Knipple, and again, Knipple came from off the out of the camera screen to grab that ball. And so, but the thing was, there was also a guy who was much closer to the ball than Knipple was. So credit to Knipple for hustling to get to the ball or hustling to his spot, grabbing the ball, and then immediately going, "Oh yeah, I can hit this," and hitting that three in rhythm and getting the N1.
It was very nice. All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we are going to be awarding the home field pullover to the best headline. And we're also going to take a look at what happened around the rest of college basketball last night. How did the ACC do as it was debut day for 15 teams in the conference? That story in just a moment. We're back from the break, and the first thing we're going to do here is talk about other games across the scope of college basketball last night. The top 10 was one big blowout after another. Kansas won by 30, Iowa by 39, Bama by 56, Houston by 57. But the game that people are really talking about is Gonzaga played Baylor. Look, most of these games were, big time power conference team, elite program against tiny little opponent, warm up games. Gonzaga and Baylor came right out of the gate and decided they were going to play each other. And boy, let me tell you, Gonzaga just blew the doors off of Baylor, 101-63. So while Duke was winning by, around 40 points or so against Maine, Gonzaga was winning by the same amount against Baylor. Really, really impressive win by the Zags. But there was one part of it that I wanted to talk about, which is this. Did you see VJ Edgecombe's dunk?
I did.
Oh, my Lordy.
Oh, I did.
Okay, so VJ Edgecombe has a dunk of the night. He quite literally planted his man parts on the upper part of some poor Gonzaga defender, almost in the dude's face for a one-handed thunder dunk.
That was Mark Few's
Wait,
son.
yeah, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
I got it all worked out, man. Don't worry. The dude who got postered by VJ Edgecombe is none other than Joe Few, Mark Few's son, who was only in the game because his team was winning by 40, 50 points. Absolute destruction. Great for Mark Few to get his son in the game, but his son just got viciously postered by VJ Edgecombe. And, you saw VJ, you saw the Baylor bench, everybody was like celebrating and excited. I want to point out that dunk happened with like a minute and a half left in the game that they were losing by 40. VJ Edgecombe was just 2 of 11 for 4 points in this game. Not a good performance by VJ Edgecombe. I'm glad he had a highlight making dunk because the rest of his game did not quite work out for him the way he would like. And it's worth noting that our man Jeremy Roach played for Baylor in that game. Did not have a very good night. Jeremy didn't. He was just 2 of 9 with 3 assists. for 9 points. And I know, Donald, you sort of looked at how other Dukies who have moved on from our program, how they did in their games elsewhere around the country, right?
Yeah, of the guys that left, only TJ Power did not play last night. I believe Wednesday is when UVA opens up. So let's first start with Christian Reeves. Christian Reeves obviously went to Clemson. They played Charleston. He was the one guy who did not start, but in 7 minutes had 3 points, 3 rebounds, a steal, and 3 turnovers. But again, I think he's going to probably see his minutes increase a little bit as the season goes along. Sean Stewart.
I don't know about that because that was a blowout. Clemson won big.
Mhm.
And I looked at the box score. He was mostly playing late in that contest. I agree. I think he's part of their rotation, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure that you're going to see Christian Reeves getting, more than 5-7 minutes, especially in ACC games. But we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, I think I personally believe that he is going to. I'm not saying he's going to get 20 minutes a game, but 7 minutes. Again in a blowout, maybe he gets some of those in competitive time, right? And that's in theory an increase in minutes, at least in the quality of minutes if you're playing in competitive minutes as opposed to at the end of a blowout. Sean Stewart started for Ohio State last night against Texas. They got the win. Didn't have a great night in 13 minutes, 2 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist. Jaden Schutt started for Virginia Tech in a win against Delaware State. He went 3 for 6 from the field, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 1 steal in 24 minutes. So that's a pretty decent performance for him.
It's worth noting that Jaden Schutt, you said, went 3 for 6. All 6 of those shots were 3-pointers. He's clearly their designated long-range shooter at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, exactly why we recruited him a couple years ago. You mentioned Jeremy Rhodes, so we'll move on to Mark Mitchell. Mark Mitchell in a loss against Memphis had 8.7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals in 29 minutes. Also had 4 turnovers. Missouri, again, Missouri wasn't great last year. They were the worst team in the SEC. They need to get on it. And a tough game against Memphis, but let's see if they improve. The winner, the guy who, in my mind was like, hey, we really love this kid. We really wish him well. I know he's coming back to Cameron in February. Jalen Blakes. Jalen Blakes started against Stanford in a win against Denver. And in 29 minutes, Jalen Blakes had 12 points, 3 or 4 shooting, had 2 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. Did he grow in the summertime? What did he do when he got to Stanford? California, they really do grow on trees, tall people. But Jalen Blakes had what I think is a great performance in his debut for Stanford. So congratulations to him. Again, we've always wanted him to get the playing time that he deserved. 29 minutes, he is inked in as their starting point guard, and hopefully he does well, except, of course, when he comes to Cameron when Stanford comes in February.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that Jalen essentially had a 10-5-5 game because if you combine the steals and the block shots, the stocks, people talk about stocks as a statistic, he gets to the 12-5-5 game. But I think I said a year ago when Jalen Blake's into the portal, I was like, that dude could easily lead a conference in steals and turnovers. That conference could be the ACC this year. I wanted to point out, as we talk about a few other ACC games, perhaps the closest game of any team in the top 15 or so that wasn't playing a big time opponent was UNC. Carolina beat Elon by 14 points, 90-76, in a game that was tied with 6.5 minutes left. Carolina ran away late, but that was a very close, very competitive game. And it's a little bit surprising that this Carolina team that's getting a pretty good bit of hype, and it appears to be a very experienced club, struggled as much as they did against Elon. This is an Elon team that, by the way, was a bad rebounding team a year ago, and they almost battled UNC to a draw on the boards. Everyone has talked about this Carolina team, probably is going to struggle inside, struggle with big men, and they clearly did against Elon. The 4 heralded newcomers for UNC, Cade Tyson, Drake Powell, Ian Jackson, and Van Allen Lubin. Those are the 4 new guys, 2 of them freshmen, 2 of them transfers. They combined to shoot just 7 for 25 in this game, less than 30%. None of them scored more than 5 points. We've been hearing so much that Drake Powell and Ian Jackson are both, future lottery picks, future first-round picks, one and done first-round picks for UNC. Compare what they did to what Cooper Flagg, Con Knippel, and even Khaman Maluach did, and there's no comparison. I don't know. I'm not going to be one of these people who just dismisses Carolina because I'm a Duke fan and I want to hate on them. But their first game, their first result was not the kind of result that you were hoping for if you're a Carolina fan. Talking about the rest of the ACC.
And
Oh, go
Jason,
ahead. Go ahead.
Jason, real
Yeah.
quick, I mean, just on that, you're also talking about a guy who is the preseason, ACC Player of the Year, preseason All-American, arguably the preseason National Player of the Year, right? He's one of the two that everyone thinks about with him and Mark Sears. So, RJ Davis has to really lead this team, especially in the absence of a lot of depth inside. And that could pose some problems for UNC. And again, I'm not going to be paying attention to them in the sense that I'm going to be following every single one of their games. But we've seen what happens when they struggle inside, even when they had Armando Bacot, who finally left after 27 years in a Tar Heel uniform. But when they struggled inside, they did not win a lot of games, or they struggled to win them. And if they're going to be doing that against Elon, if they're going to be struggling, imagine when they get to the better teams and getting to the non-conference games that they have, and then also the ACC, people are going to be ready to play them and ready to try and expose it inside front. They have to figure out a way to overcome that. They're hoping it's their freshmen that can do it, because remember, they didn't get a lot of transfers either. They struggled in the transfer portal to get some guys that they wanted. I think is going to be, if other teams are able to exploit their inside game and the lack of depth that they have, UNC could be in for a struggle, especially in the first couple months.
Yeah, and let's talk about the rest of the ACC really quick. I am pleased the conference avoided the upset bug. We've seen one of the reasons the ACC has struggled for national profile, so to speak, and national reputation over the past couple of years is there would be these head-scratching losses early in the season where an ACC team that's supposed to be fairly decent would suddenly lose to a team from a small mid-major conference. You would just be like, what? How'd you let that happen? Because it hurts the entire conference. Well, the ACC went 15-0 yesterday. Now, they mostly played overmatched opponents. No one in the conference played a power conference opponent. In fact, the ACC didn't play a single team ranked in the top 150 in KenPom, but they won. And that's really important that they all won those games. There were a couple close calls. We mentioned UNC Elon. Syracuse played the Lemoyne Dolphins. I had no idea that Lemoyne was named the Dolphins. Good for them for being the Dolphins. I love that nickname. Syracuse only beat Lemoyne by 4, 86
They
to
were
82.
down most of the game too. That was a game we were tracking while watching our game, and we're like, yo, if there was a team, we tried to avoid the upset bug. Syracuse tried so hard to be the one team for most of the game.
Yeah.
And they thankfully they pulled it off. But I know the fans there are none too pleased with that performance.
It is worth noting that Lemoyne, it was Ken Pomeroy's number 335 team. I mean, one of the bottom 30 teams in all of college basketball, and here's Syracuse struggling and only winning by 4. BC beat the Citadel by 9. Citadel is Ken Pom's number 344th team. And Wake beat Coppin State by 15. They led by 20 at halftime, but they couldn't pull away late. Coppin State is worth noting 363rd coming into this game, according to Ken Pom. There are only 364 teams. Coppin State's the second worst team, according to Ken Pomeroy in his preseason rankings. And here they were giving, I don't want to say they gave Wake Wake didn't exactly handle them with ease. So even though the AC games, they didn't look impressive in doing it. I think we will begin to find out something about the ACC this weekend. UNC goes to Kansas. Louisville plays Tennessee, a very good Tennessee team. Wake is going to take on Michigan. BC is going to play a very good Virginia Commonwealth VCU team. In fact, I expect BC to be an underdog in that game. VCU is one of the better mid-majors out there. And Pitt has a sneaky game this weekend against Murray State. The Racers are Murray State Racers, one of the favorites in the Missouri Valley Conference, which is always one of the better of the mid-major conferences, and that'll be a tough game for Pitt. And my last thing I wanted to mention as we go around the country, probably the biggest upset in the top 25 last night. Donald, did you see this? Texas A&M ranked 13th in the country.
Mm-hmm.
They lost 64-61 to Central Florida, coached by Johnny Dawkins.
Yeah.
Good win for Johnny to start the season. We know that his team has bit off a lot in moving, last year to the Big 12, which is absolutely elite conference. No easy games, no easy wins in the Big 12. UCF is showing that they are ready to compete with anybody in that conference this year. So good for Johnny and good for that program.
Yeah, absolutely. We love JD and the fact that he was able to get that win at home. Really, really cool. And hopefully it's the start of a really good season for Central Florida and for Johnny Dawkins.
Donald, I know there's one more item you wanted to do before we get to those headlines and give away our prize this week. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the NABC, the National Association of Basketball Coaches, is the national, as it says, the National Association of a lot of collegiate basketball coaches. And one of the prestigious awards that they have is the NABC Metropolitan Award, which is recognizes basketball coaches and contributors for long and outstanding service to the game. It has been won by several people like Fogg Allen, Pete Newell, John McClendon, John Wooden, Dave Gavitt, John Thompson, Jim Nance, Roy Williams, John Chaney, and Dick Vitale, among many others. Well, on Monday, that award was renamed the NABC Mike Krzyzewski Award, and so it will forever be known as the Mike Krzyzewski Award or the Coach K Award. Coach K himself won the award in 2009, but I think it's really, really cool that it's the longest annual award that they have. It's been presented since 1941, and it is one of the most prestigious awards in college basketball. And for that to be named after Coach K, first of all, what took them so long? He's been gone. He's been retired for a couple years, but in all seriousness, that is a really, really cool gesture for a organization that he has chaired. He's sat on the board. He's done so much to help basketball coaches in his career and even in this post career to continue to thrive and get the things that they need to be successful with their programs. So for this award to be named after him is nothing short of amazing. And again, congrats to Coach K for that most deserving honor. And again, that award will be awarded in in April after the season at their NABC annual dinner, along with their other awards. But again, one of the prestigious awards in college basketball will now be the Mike Krzyzewski Award.
As it should be. He is the GOAT, and he deserves to have all the awards named after him. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm very much in favor of that. All right, it's time. As I said, we had well over 100 headlines come in. We I think we're gonna name about maybe 15 of them or so now, and then we will pick. Then we will have the winner. I'll go first, Donald. How about that? Uh, my favorites start with Jacob Franks, who said Coops and Cons and Bears. Oh my! A little a little line from the Wizard of Oz there from Jacob.
Mhm.
Then we get to Ryan Balch, who had a Yogi Bear theme, which I really liked. He said, "Not your average bear." Flagg flies over Maine in Duke debut. I thought that was good. I like the little Yogi
I
Bear
like
thing
that
there.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. J.W. Barnhill gave us, and I have to do this in the tone of My Fair Lady. Duke's reign of pain falls first upon Maine. Any fan of My Fair Lady will recognize the cadence there. John Grantland gave us opening night, the future is bright. Con can do, and Cooper dunks too. John, I'll tell you, man, that one came awful close to being my selection to win
Yeah.
it. I love the rhyming there, very strong. Pete, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Misinski or something. Misinski. I'm doing that wrong. I apologize, Pete. You know who you are. Pete gave us some good alliteration. Duke Diaper Dandies debut dazzles. Always love the alliteration here. Joseph Reed. I enjoy this. Ready? Joseph Reed said, "Bear witness. Maine mauled in freshman Flagg's Devil debut." That's a really good one. And Andy Allen gave us Cooper dunks, con scores in chunks, Maine flunks. These are great. And then I had one more before I let you get to yours, and then we'll get to our winner. Travis Simone. Maine's man is the main man.
Mhm.
That is real. I think that was really clever. Travis, I'm gonna tell you, man, I pushed for you there, buddy, but I just couldn't quite get it over the line. Maine's man is the main man. A nice tribute to Cooper Flagg there. Donald, give me your favorites.
Yeah, so in addition to some that you mentioned, I also had a few that I thought were really cool. Ken Swanner, he had one that was similar to a couple that we got, but this one I just loved. Flag and Company, led by Knipple, cons Black Bears of any chance of a pick a nick basket, which again is a Yogi Bear theme. J.E. Miz, I believe I'm pronouncing your last name right. J.E. Miz wrote, despite no lob stars. Duke bears down in second half to coast past Maine, which is a deep cut back to the Brotherhood podcast where Cooper Flagg said that despite being in Maine, he actually doesn't like lobster. So
Nice,
I thought that one was really, really cool. And there was, again, no lobs, no alley-oop dunks in this game. There was a couple close, but the fact that there were no lob stars, I thought that was really good. Jamie Keffer, Jamie writes in during the season quite a bit. Their headline, Devil's Depth continues to impress as the freshman domain 8 the Bears. I thought that was cool. Con, of course, and Maine in all caps there. Corbin Vandeweghe, who has written in a few times, Corbin wrote, the main dish. Chef Shire cooks up bear stew by combining freshly minted freshmen and seasoned veterans with spicy D and homemade triple sauce. Corbin, I'm hungry. So once if you catch me while I'm hungry and you have something that has what appears to be a menu for success, I love it.
Yeah, by the way, Corbin sent us two, and I liked his other one. His other one was Blue Devils send Maine into a bear market as they open the season with diversified, stocked options. As someone who used to cover Wall Street journalistically, I appreciate that, Corbin.
Yeah, and the final one that I had was from Adam Spencer, and I'm going to read this slowly so that we can understand it. 7-ranked Duke begins hunt for banner 6 with the Aussie number 5 shooting 4-3 and our flagship star number 2 giving us win number 1. 7-6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the same thing. That it was very, very close to being my pick, Adam, but very, very well done.
And so now we are down to the winner. It comes from John Lee. John, by the way, it was unanimous. Me and Donald, Sam consulted on this as well. We all had a whole bunch of nominees, and we went, nope, this is the one. Ready? So K for Khan, C for Cooper. KC and their b-ball band, Shake, 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 the Black Bears booties out of Cameron.
Loved it. Loved it.
What a 70s throwback there. I mean, there are people listening to this now who are like, what are you talking about? KC and the b-ball band, Shake, 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 their Black Bear booties. John Lee, you are the winner of the home field apparel pullover, the Duke pullover. Dude, that is a fabulous, fabulous headline that you gave us. Well over 100 entrants, and you were the guy who got it. Send us an email, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. John, send us your address so I know where to get this thing off.
We'll respond to him because thankfully we have his email.
Right,
we'll respond to him.
Exactly.
But if you're listening to this, John, congratulations. You'll probably get the email before you hear this. But congratulations, and thank you again to everybody for submitting some excellent headlines. Despite the fact that we're not going to be giving away pullovers for every single game.
Right.
We just don't have it like that yet. We don't have it like that yet. But you can still send us your headlines, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, as always, throughout the season, the best headlines will make it onto the show. We'll read them to kind of sum up how each of these games end up going.
Donald, I'm going to tell you right now, if we get 100 headlines for every game, I'm not going to be able to do this.
We're going to stop. We're going to stop. Yeah.
Oh my God. It was so many. It was so many. I love that we have a big community that embraces us and is, we're all together here on the DBR podcast. Folks, we'll be back in just a couple days in your feed. We'll be giving you a preview of the game against Army coming up this weekend. And if there's any other special Duke news, we'll be covering that as well. Until then, he is Donald. I am Jason. And this is the Duke Band. Shake, shake, shaking our way home.